Welcome to a very special episode of the Custard Splat Podcast. We've spoken sort of in-house for a little while about how we can make this podcast a wider football podcast outside of the realms of Southend United, and then a wider sporting podcast outside of that. And I think today we're doing exactly that, as we're currently sitting down with Olympic medalist, world champion Fatima Whitbread, and Gina Gardiner, a motivational speaker and author, which, we're excited to have this conversation. It's something very, very different for all of us, but one that we're all very much looking forward to. Fatima, we'll start with you. You've the sort of the link between yourself and Southend United at the moment is the mascot campaign currently, this Draw Her Into the Game female mascot that the club are trying to push. What made you want to get involved with that?
Well, obviously, I mean, if we track back a little bit, who is Fatima Whitbread? Abandoned as a baby, some would say left to die. A neighbour heard a baby crying, hadn't seen anybody coming or going in the flat for a couple of days, so she called the police, who banged the door down, rescued the baby, which was myself. And then I was pushed into the hospital for 7 months to recover from malnutrition and nappy rash. Got over the nappy rash, thankfully. And then I was made a ward of court by Hackney Borough Council, which saw me in the care system then, incarcerated in the care system for the next 14 years of my life. Now, sport has been a very big part of my life. It's my saviour, really, I would say. And I've seen a massive change where sport's concerned with women. Back then, in the 70s and 80s, when I was competing, very few women would go to the gym. And I was always working out. The amount of work that I would do would be 3 times a day training, 7 days a week, varied from weight training to cross-country running, track work, medicine ball throwing, plyometric work. And we didn't have what we called, sporting excellence facilities. I trained in a shed in a back garden, and also at the local track, which was rarely open. Now you see a massive swing, a massive change, and women in sport is heralded like you are with the Southend Club, with the programme that you're involved with at this moment in time with young girls. And I think that's an amazing event to be able to include women now much more broadly from the community into the clubs and give them an opportunity, a platform to produce, I guess, what I would say self-development in many ways, not just in the excellence of sport, but in the community, finding a sense of place of belonging. And that's really important, and inclusion as well, because we have various areas in the community now which we look at marginalised kids, conventional kids in conventional families, but also neurodivergent. There's so many areas now where we can bring that together through sport and the power of sport, and teaching life skills is key, for them to survive. And for me as a sportswoman, it's just wonderful to see 40 years on from when I became somebody who was saved by sport, and that being my saviour, to world champion, and now being involved with Southend Football Club through my campaign, Fatima's UK campaign, which fight for to improve the life outcomes for children in the care system, with our action hubs, and working to improve the opportunity for children in the community, and not just marginalised kids and kids from the care system, but sport for all, really.
Brilliant.
I do talk a bit much.
That's great.
Now you're going to be looking, which questions am I going to ask?
No, listen, we always come into these, we've got like loose notes, but we much prefer it when someone just, rather than it's now like, I now look back at my list and they go, okay, what's next, and tick that off. So we just sit down and have a conversation. You talk about sort of the way that women in sport sort of it's never been better, has it really? Not just football, like sport in general, but going back to sort of when you were competing, when you were growing up, what what sort of barriers did you face that you sort of can see now? Like, we've taken massive steps to improve those.
Well, back in my day, I mean, sport really, it all started with girls. If they were climbing trees, which I often did, conquering or chestnutting or even scramping apples, I mean, we were called tomboys back then. But girls today now, I mean, they're much more widely respected for their sporting excellence, and they're very resilient. You know, they're strong and much tougher than do you think. You know, their opportunities are much wider, you know, than what we had back then. But for me, it's always been about survival. You know, it gives young people the chance to express themselves. They have a sense of belonging, as I said earlier, and also a safe haven, because many of them nowadays, I mean, especially kids from the care system now, I talk about the care system a lot because that's what my campaign's all about, improving life outcomes for those young people. And a lot of them get targeted, groomed, you know, because they're vulnerable. They don't have these opportunities that Southend Football Club now are offering for our young people. Back in the day, they were non-existent. We had what we call community halls, where you could just rock up and join, and it didn't cost a penny. But you were in a safe place. You found good role models. You connected in your community with people, and learned, you know, a whole lot more with that connection socially than you would, you know, have done nowadays if you're not in part of a club or part of a hub, you know, an action hub that which we work on. Young kids today, there's a lot more opportunities for them, especially the girls, and I think that's important because sometimes when you look at the score tables, you know, they're doing better than the boys, you know, and that's good. You know, it's inspiring. It's inspiring for the boys as well to see that the girls, you know, I mean, the Lioness is doing so well and have done. Our rugby team, you know, the Red Roses, and you know, there's so many young women nowadays, you know, that can participate right across the board in all sports, and it should be widely available. How many women do we see now go to the gym and work with weights? I mean,
that was never a thing before. It was always that if you lifted weights at the gym, then you were manly or
you were typecast.
Yeah,
exactly.
You were always looked to be a certain way, and it's not about that.
And I had that a lot. I mean, in my day, in the 80s, I was trailblazing on a number of levels. One, I was a kid from the care system. Two, I was a lady of colour. Three, women shouldn't earn the same money as men. I was always being referred to by some of our athletes, not mentioning them, that I was equivalent of the girl that walked around the boxing ring with the number. Yeah, I was world champion, world record holder. And I still had to fight for the right to be paid equally as a gold medalist. And it wasn't just for me. I mean, my belief was that I was fighting for women beyond me, you know, the next generation. And it's interesting, you know, I loved my era of sport because it came also in a period where East versus West. So it was an amazing time, you know. The 80s were what I call the golden years. You know, we had lots of good sportsmen and women right across the board. We had cricket, you had Gattin, Gower, Gooch, and Ian Botham. And in darts, there was Eric Bristow and Jockey Wilson. In snooker, Steve Davis and Jimmy White. It was just, I mean, motor racing, Mansell, James Hunt. And athletics was really one of the top sports, the number one sport. It knocked football off its perch at one time. And that was largely due to the fact that they had a lot of hooliganism in the sport back in the 80s. But my era was fantastic, to a learning era. You know, women shouldn't be in the gym weight training. So when they saw Whitbread, it was like lady with muscles. And I'd always say, look, I'm not no Bo Derek, but Bo Derek can't throw a javelin, right? It's tools for the job. And that's exactly...
it gives you the fuel to do it more, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like
makes you want it even more.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that young people today have equal opportunities. You know, it's what it's about. You know, when there's some very talented young women, when we've just seen the Winter Olympics, amazing some of the successes that we've seen there.
Looking back then, though, did you ever feel it would be as accessible as it is now? Did you always hope that it would be, but could you see that? Obviously, that's what you were going through at that time.
I mean, looking back, I mean, you could never envisage how it was going to build so successfully well. I think sport was for all, but for women, you know, it's exponentially really come on so well. You know, had it have been like in my day, football, I think I would have played football. I played county hockey as the youngest ever player for Essex. I also had an offer of a golf career, 70,000 a year, to play as a 16-year-old. And obviously my chosen sport was athletics. I mean, I remember as an 11-year-old watching Mary Peters win. Mary Peters was from Northern Ireland. She was a pentathlete and she won the Olympics in Munich Olympics. And it was that year when I was 11-year-old in the care system thinking, what am I going to do? It's always been told to me, we can't wait to get rid of you. Care leavers age was 16. And it was like London was all about, in the 70s, marijuana and prostitution. And I've always been told, oh, you'll end up a junkie and a prostitute. And I thought, really? How comes? You know, so sport was...
Well, that's all there is for me.
Yeah.
There's nothing else I can do.
I was aspiring for anything else. And I just thought, well, this is crazy, you know. How am I going to survive? And again, you know, there was a sportswoman, Mary Peters, was my inspiration. And that planted that seed.
So important to have that role model.
Yeah, and hope. She gave me hope that I could succeed. There was something out there for me. And women today, I think, have that same responsibility for future generations of young kids, young women, young girls. And this programme that you're doing here at Southend Football Club is, you know, is quite heralded for that. For being able to include young women in sport.
We say it's obviously gone a long way since then. Do you think it can go further? Obviously, it's not there yet. Is this? Where would you like to sort of see it go in terms of women in sport?
I think it's just equal footing for men, for women. You know, women are being far more successful, I think, than the guys in some level. You know, they've grown very quickly, done very well. You know, rugby, football. You see a lot of the summer sports as well. I mean, obviously track and field, a lot of our girls are doing well. In the future it's bright, really. I can't see that any different to what we see, the men's successes.
Yeah.
And that's what you want, really, because sport is for all.
Yeah. Would you say there's still a barrier for young women to step into sport and be sporty? Would you say there's still that?
No, because there's too many opportunities out there for them now, and women are very, very strong individuals and they're very resilient. So those opportunities they take with both hands and make something of it. Yeah, they're not getting the pushback, are they? They're getting included. So, by the very nature of a woman, who's, you know, most women are very, you know, they're multitaskers at heart anyway. So they're gonna make sure that they put their best foot forward and live their best authentic self, and that is through expressing themselves through sport. They do it very well, you know, and I think that all you can see in the future really is a lot more women doing, you know, much better, you know, what they choose to do.
I think a lot of it falls on our generation, doesn't it, to break those chains of, like, our sort of, not specifically saying our grandparents, but our grandparents' era, like where it was obviously looked on very differently. But I don't, like, I've got two girls myself. Like, there's never been as many opportunities for them as there is now. Sadie is part of a pretty newly formed girls' football academy. You were just doing some stuff last night, weren't you, in preparation for International Women's Day coming up, and all of these girls are running off their favourite football players, and it's like...
It's such an amazing thing to see now. And this, like Scott said, this new football academy, they opened in September. Before we knew sort of that we were really going to hit the ground running with it, we had 8 girls signed up, and it was always like a friend of a friend, and sort of this, she might want to join, she might do it after school, and then all of a sudden we had a session just before Christmas. 130 girls.
Wow.
There's 130 girls standing in it, like on the pitch, just absolutely loving it, and you can see it on their faces, and it's amazing.
It gives permission for younger generations as well to think actually it's okay to choose sport.
Yeah.
You know, it's become a career as well. It's not just something as a pastime. I always say sport is important and it's a way of life. You know, health is you know, I always talk about the mental health and the physical health, and those two things being one, because it is the wholesome that creates the rounded person of being well in life, balanced. Because, I mean, if you want to be strong, you'll go to the gym. If you want to build the mental health, you work on your mental muscle of resilience. And the idea really is that with young people today, it's not just that, you know, it's a lifestyle. It becomes a part of who they are. So it goes much further than just on the pitch. It goes into what they eat, how they look after themselves, take responsibility, you know, for themselves.
It's a mindset over what happens on the pitch.
Mindset's 90% of everything we do. And if you tell yourself you're not going to be good, the chances are you won't. So it's all about that, learning about yourself and how you can apply yourself. It's about building a life for yourself as well within that community. You know, it's making good friends. It's also a possibility that you'll end up with lots of opportunities, being a coach, being a physio. With the power of sport, what we do in our programmes, we offer the opportunity for young people not only to engage within the community, which gives them a safe belonging, find good role models, which is really important. It only takes one person to change a child's life. But also that, you know, not necessarily if they want to continue as a competitor, but they can train and keep fit. But there are opportunities such as big stadiums like this where we'll have, you know, medics, they'll have groundsmen, they'll have management, they have catering. And these are the opportunities that come from engaging within your community with a sports club.
I think that's where it's changed as well, is that it's not just girls can play football anymore, they can have careers and stuff in it. Like, it's probably the right time to talk about my sister, my younger sister. She was always, she's a semi-pro footballer now, but she was always kicking a ball from when she was 2-3 years old, and we always knew that something would come out of it. But she played for a boys team when she was 6, and then there was no girls set up there. She's nearly 20 now. But there was no boys football teams back then. She played, girls football teams back then. She played for a boys team. There was absolutely no pathway for her until she got to about 9 or 10, and then started playing in girls teams. And then that's when we realised she's really good, but also, like, this could be a career for her. Like, it's not just playing football after school. It's not just on a Sunday. Like, she could go far. There's a pathway for her. And now she plays football semi-professionally. She's a coach. She coaches at the academy that I am involved with. She coaches 3 times a week. And it's such an amazing journey to see that journey right from the start, where there was no opportunity for her when she was 6 or 7. And now it's all there.
And she's now a role model for other young women. And
this goes back to the representation you were talking about. When she was this little 6-year-old that had to play in a boys' team. There obviously was, but it wasn't as easily accessible then. But now you go on YouTube, you see WSL on the homepage, like it's everywhere now. So these young girls that your sister's now coaching, like they see that representation. They see someone that looks like me on the telly, whether it's football or not. Like you've just mentioned the rugby as well. Like it's
women in sport that are there and
good role models for young people to say, actually, young women, we can do this. Why not? I mean, it's interesting you say back when she was younger, she was playing like football with the boys. I used to this was back in the 70s, 60s, 70s. I started throwing the rounders ball with the girls at school, and it was too easy. I was winning easy, so I then joined the boys with the cricket ball and gave them a thrashing. So that's kind of that's what
she was up against really when she was playing at that age, because 9 times out of 10 she was better than some of the boys on the team, and it kind of sparked a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of jealousy, and that's sort of her first obstacle that she found, that it was the parents more than the players most of the time. The parents were the problem.
Right at that age, the boys in the team don't care. They don't care. They do just see another kid, but that comes from the parents.
Because the boys get inspired by the girls as well. We better get our act together, you know. We're going to get showed up by the girls, you know. And that's healthy rivalry, and that's what you want in the game, in any sport. You know, that's part of it. Gina, have you got to say about that?
I think one of the problems for anybody is to see themselves in relationship to what potential they have and how they can use that. And for me, what's happened is that it's opened up the possibilities, not only because those possibilities are there for people to actually engage in, but the thought process for young girls and their parents is you don't have to look very far to find that there are opportunities which weren't there before. And I think for me the greater advantage is if you look at leadership currently across the world, you'll find that still 90% of big organisations are led by men.
Mm-hmm.
Women see that there is a glass ceiling. Part of that is in reality, but part of that is because of the mindset that they think there's a glass ceiling. And the research shows that men, if they know how to do 60% of a job, they will go for it. Where women need to have at least 85% of the job that they know that they can do before they go to it. I think what we're seeing now is a revolution, that young people who are coming through now will not see a glass ceiling in the same way, that they will start to see themselves that if I'm the best candidate, then I should go for that job and I should get it, whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also, if you look at, my background initially was education, head teacher for 20 years. You look at kids at primary school and there are no barriers pretty well. By the time puberty comes and they're in secondary school, they want to be seen as belonging. They don't want to be seen out of the frame. And so they become much shyer, much more worried about social media and what they look like. I think that sport is a way of breaking down those comparisons, which comparatinitis is a bit like Ebola and a virus, isn't it? Because they're comparing themselves not with reality. But sport, when it's done well, is reality, and they can see themselves in terms of my skill set, not does my bottom look big in this, but actually am I doing a good job? And that self-confidence, that sense of belonging, that sense of possibility, I think is a huge translator from sport into adult life.
Mm-hmm.
Girls are much more comfortable as well now. They love it. I mean, they go to the gym. I've seen a lot of the women, they're comfortable with their muscles. You know, they're not being ridiculed, and they're accepted. And I think that's where it's changed. More people are now readily accepting women good at sport and taking their sport serious.
And that's where I think social media comes into that a lot as well, where social media can do a lot of damage, but it can still do a lot of good as well. And I think again it all goes back to that word representation. These girls, they can see people in the gym, they can see, oh, she's lifting weight, she's doing a deadlift, she's on the squat rack, like I can go and do that too. It's not just for the men. Like it all goes back to that word representation.
You just reminded me of a situation back in the day when I was training. Linford Christie came in the gym and I was powerlifting, and he sort of snuck in the back of the gym, didn't want to be working out. But you know that's still the case. I think with some guys they feel a bit insecure if a woman's stronger than they are, or perhaps successful with what they're doing. But it's honed in. It's not something they wake up one day and given the right to be able to be successful. They've worked hard.
You've got to work for it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know, and that's the thing. It should be celebrated. That resilient strength and resilience of them really taking it aboard and working at it. And it's a lifetime of learning. You know, I mean, for me to become world champion, I was basically 12 years in training before I won my first major title. Now that's a long apprenticeship in anyone's book.
massively underestimated.
So, yeah, I mean, but again,
How many hours people go back to what is it, like 10,000 hours practice or something?
I always talk to young people and say, look, you know, you don't be afraid to fail. Failure is all about success, it's part of it. Reframing failure is so important for young people to understand. You know, that in order to perfect, you have to, you know,
have failures.
Working in those failures.
Because you've got to know what doesn't work in order to build up something. I won't do that again.
Yeah, and equally find out if you do like something or not. you don't have a go at it, you're never going to know. You can't make that informed judgment of whether or not this is something for me, or maybe I should move on and try something else. That's all part of it. And that's really changed greatly from the days when I was competing as a youngster to what it is now, and it's so important. Young women today, they're far more in tune with what they want and not being afraid to go out there and do it.
I think the other change, and I think it's one that's going to get even bigger, is that women in sport has greater status. There was a time when you'd never see it on TV.
Yeah.
That if it happened behind closed doors almost, didn't it? And I think that as they gain more traction and greater status, that also feeds into them recognising that they have equal footing in sport, but in life too.
And also being good role models.
Yeah.
Because women really are good role models for other women, whether it be team or individual sports. In order for it to thrive and continue to be successful, you've got to be able to herald those champions, as you do the men.
We've had it even at various times on our podcast this season where we've tried to shine a bit of a light. We do a section on the women's team and the results of the weekend, and we'll get not a lot. It is always a minority, but still a minority is enough, and it shouldn't be happening. But you'll get I'm not listening to that, or I turned it off at half hour because I'm not listening to that. It's just
Well,
it's just
changing hearts and minds is not easy, is it? And people tend to get entrenched in their view, and I have that sense of, if I am not seen to be being right, then I'm wrong, rather than just different. And I think you're educating people at so many different levels, and only over time, and by creating ongoing success in women's sport and women's football, will you actually start to change
The
people's
success will
attitudes.
eventually speak for itself.
Absolutely.
I think what men of this generation, or certainly of a different generation to what the younger people are now, what they struggle to understand is women don't want to be better than them, we just want to be equal. And it's something that I've spoken about a lot, and we never
you
want...
talk for yourself.
Okay, all right. In general.
But I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, no.
But I also think it's important to remember for women, they've got every right to be on that stadium, on that platform. They've worked hard, to achieve what they've achieved, and it's groundbreaking. And if we're going to survive as a human race, then we've got to recognise and applaud the success of both sexes. And now you have this, all sorts that are coming into the game. It's not just men and women, is it? We have right across the board diversity, and so we have to acknowledge everybody's successes. But I think when you talk about purely women and what they achieve, then we should be heralding them, for every least little bit of success they have, because it's inspiring.
Because if anything, they've worked harder to even get to be considered in the same conversation as.
Yeah, you look at backstories as well. Backstories play a big role in how people, why they do what they do, and the strength and resilience of that person. And I think women, do, by just the mere fact of being women, do have a lot harder lives sometimes. Men tend to get up and go, and can do what they want to do, basically, because it's always been accepted. Women play role play in lots of different things. And finding the time also is sometimes...
What you were saying about multitasking, I work full time, I've got 3 children, I'm a mum equally as I am a businesswoman, and you do have to split your time with that, and it is still different in this day and age that a woman is expected to be a full-time mother and a stay-at-home mum, and you do get, even from other women, that you do get people look at you and they say, well, you've got a job, you work full-time, you don't stay at home all day, and I'm like, how do you do it? It is still a question that is asked all the time. Our children are young. I've got a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. So they are still babies, and you do still get looked down upon sometimes. Are you not at home with them? And it is really difficult to try and find that split between being a successful woman in my career
and that should
and
be
being
celebrated in itself, because that's a difficult task for a woman. I mean, not to revert back to myself, but I remember when I came out of the care system into the love of the Whitbreads, I had 2 younger brothers, and my mum was undiagnosed bipolar. And it brought, both our quirky ways, me from the care system, my mum's were, it brought us together, and one common factor was sport, that common denominator. But helping my mum raise the 2 boys, I mean, I've always played a role play with in the care system as a mum for the young children, and that helped me greatly in giving, you received the love. So in fulfilling their needs helped fulfil mine. So I've always had like that role play. So whenever I've been an athlete, it was never purely just to concentrate as I would as an athlete. I worked exceptionally hard, but I also was role playing, like you say, being mum to my 2 brothers.
Wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, wearing a lot of hats. And helping my mum, look after the house. She worked full time, my dad worked full time, being somebody that took care of the house with my mum, and also chief cook and bottle washer, that kind of thing. Finding the time in between school runs and also going off to do my training.
It's hard. It's really hard to try and also just to try and look after yourself in between those times as well, and have time for a cup of coffee that isn't freezing cold. Yeah.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
There are 2 things that we haven't spoken about that I think would be of value to think about. And one is, I think we tend to think about men objecting to women playing sport. But I think that women need to support women more, whether that's in sport or business.
I was waiting to say this myself.
That it's very sad, isn't it, that women, instead of applauding the fact that people are achieving, they seem to see it as something that they want to knock. And then the other thing is, I think that if we can get away with it, and making people equal does not diminish the other group. It almost feels at times that it's felt, well, we're losing something if we let women succeed. When actually both parties can succeed really well, and it doesn't diminish the status or the achievements of any other group. And I think those 2 things are really critical if we're going to achieve even more moving forward.
I think society has a lot to play in that, Gina, as well. But I do think what you've said is true, and women, by the mere fact that those that don't participate, they're the ones that always give the pushback, and they're not always willing to accept that other women do like to roll their sleeves up, get stuck in, go to the gym, build that frame that they need, the tools to succeed, and I think it's an attitude change that we're looking for here in society.
As I say, it's almost like a societal problem. I see you do get a lot of comparisons between the women's and the men's sports, purely from a financial point of view. But then there's a lot of people and a lot of women that then don't support the women's side of the same sport, despite saying that we're equal pay, but then don't support the sport. They only look at it from a financial reason, which to me just seems societal. That it's like, that's just filtered down. So then it's like that. Almost like they don't want to step out of place and support the women's side. It's kind of like they can just be like, just moan about it financially, but not actually want to accept it from a, as you said earlier, like a lifestyle choice, where you can still be a female athlete and still be a mum and still be a provider. It's not you give that up and become a very male athlete in a female body. It's not about that. It's from a society, it is that. It's like you're, as a woman, you don't just choose an athlete and that's who you are. You're still a woman. You're still everything else you want to be.
It's an aspect of you, isn't it? It's not the totality of you.
Yeah. So when you said like the lifestyle side of things, that was something that kind of resonated with me, especially with the social media world. So I've worked with male and female athletes, and I find that even the social media world, of when you compare the two, is completely different. It's always striving for those same wins, and it's always achieving this time or achieving this score, and there's nothing to differentiate the two aside from the men are stronger and quicker on paper. But then there's all the other stuff that goes into that, and I feel like from a female athlete perspective, it's like if they were to show everything else that went into it, showing that balance, it probably allow more women to actually see that as a lifestyle decision and get into sport.
Absolutely.
should also say that I think it's really important to respect people's standards and what they want to elevate to. Sometimes it's nice for people to just do club sport. It's not necessarily, it's fulfilling enough for them to do club sport. Some want to go international level, and others want to go all the way to the top, world champion. You know, and these are different, you know, inputs in terms of what the amount of time that you can spare, or what emotionally and spiritually that you want to be able to be, what platform you choose to be on, you know, and it should be respected, you know, by people that are onwatchers, you know, those that are looking to see, oh yeah, well, she could do a lot better, or that's not good enough. And no, actually just respect that person's standards.
It's good enough for them.
Because that might be enough
That's
for
where the line should be drawn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you think about the sheer numbers, people playing the sport socially as a hobby, they're going to be much bigger numbers. You want them to be able to enjoy it and see their role models and aspire to get better, but within the parameters of what they're doing.
Their own achievements. Yeah.
It's not to be, you know, diminutive of other successes, and it's also important to remember that everybody has to find their place in life as to where they want to be, what works for them, you know, and when that is a legacy they can hand down to the next, like for their family and their children, because ultimately I think today society puts a lot of pressure on young people to behave in a particular way, or shouldn't we? And I remember when I was competing, women shouldn't be in the gym, or women shouldn't have muscles, and that was a huge amount to carry on my shoulders back then, because I wanted to succeed. I wanted to be able to succeed because I was coming out of the care system. That was the only way I could see myself surviving. For me, that was about survival. And then to be told, you know, you look at her, she's got muscles and have that finger of suspicion always being pointed. I found that really hard to carry around.
So did that ever sort of put you off that, or does it make you even
made me more determined?
Yeah.
You know? The reason why it made me more determined is because it was in my DNA to want to succeed, you know, to be self-financing, to make a life for myself, to break that cycle of being told you'll end up being nothing, you know, but a junkie and a prostitute. Why? Why do people label things in such a way that in the end, if you're not careful, I mean, you end up believing that and never really trying to succeed in what you want to set your eyes on. You know, for me, it was all about inspiring others to take on that opportunity of being who they wanted to be in life. You know, and not being told, you know, you shouldn't aspire to greater heights if you want to be.
So was that your catalyst when you were younger to kind of break those sort of boundaries? And did you see that at that young age? Did you see that as your career, as your calling, or was it purely this is what you enjoy?
No,
at what point did you think like I'm gonna?
I never saw my start as defining my ending. And I always say, as a child in the care system, coming out of the care system was all about finding my feet and what I could do. Sport was my saviour. I didn't see all the other things that came with that as I went along. I didn't know I was going to be the trailblazer for women in sport, and there should be women successfully doing well with, you know, muscles and payments for women, equal pay. All those things unravelled as I went along that path, that journey. I had to deal with that, as well as deal with my own expectation and other people's expectation of me. You know, it can be a lot to deal with, you know, in terms of, Gina will know this, you know, I got quite high standards of my own. If I set myself, you know, my bar is very high. But at the same time, when you've got the world's media looking in on you and the public, when you're out there, when you start being successful, that expectation as well, you know, that's a lot to
like that could be enough to make a lot of people just cower back, right? Especially if it's.
But in that period of
goes
time,
back to mindset, doesn't
yes,
it?
mindset, and that's what it was. I was very. I think that what I'm trying to say is now you've got more collectively women being successful, much easier, I think, in some respects, to be able to sort of elbow people out the way when they come with that negativity. But for me at that time, it wasn't, because my strength and resilience came from my living in the care system.
Yeah.
And my passion and drive to want to succeed, to
Yeah.
survive. And those things are very powerful. But when you're getting lots of societal knockbacks, when you say knockbacks, it's suppressed, then they, Whitbread, look, and they'll show you the worst picture of you straining and all your muscles are rippling out. And then, of course, you're going to get people say, oh, look at her, muscle girl, you shouldn't have muscles, girl, you know.
It's interesting to say the worst photo.
I was just about to say
Would
that.
you, because if you Google you see those photos, but that's like, you'd say that's your peak physical form.
Well, when you're in vest and shorts and you're straining and doing your thing, of course. I mean, I'm proud of what I've achieved.
Yeah.
But living through that period of time where women didn't go to the gym was then became another responsibility, a burden to carry with you. You know, and that I say, you know, is that was tough back then, but it was a good thing because it inspired a lot, still within a lot of, I think, women to realise, yeah, this girl can do well, so can I.
Yeah.
You know, and that was, you know, that was just that generation, wasn't it?
It highlights too that everything that you see, hear, feel, you filter through your own perspective and your own reality. So if your reality is that somebody is at the pinnacle of their career and what they're showing you is that determination and that effort, that's what you see. If you've got a sense that women shouldn't be in sport, and if they are in sport, they should be little women carrying the placards in the boxing ring, or being the girls with the pom-poms. That's what you'll see. And I think the shift that you're involved in is changing that perspective, so that actually what we see is the individual and the effort and the skill and the determination that individual, whether it's a person or a team, are putting forward. And that shift in perspective is so important.
I think perspective is a massive thing. I just think, like, when you say about that photo of you being in the press, back then people would have looked at that and gone, oh, look at her. Yeah. Today, that very same photo could be in the press and so many girls would be like, wow, look at her. Yeah. And that's the shift in perspective that we've been waiting for.
And that's that same photo, but it might have taken 30 years for someone to look at it and go, oh my God, look at her.
And that's the point we were talking about, when women don't back women, because that era, when I went through it, most women were, oh no, she shouldn't have muscles. Why? I'm throwing a javelin and I need to be the best.
I need these muscles.
I need these muscles.
What do you think it is about sport that seems to do that to perception? Because I know, Gina, you said about the corporate world as well, which it does happen, but there does seem to be about something in sport. We've referenced this this quote from Laura Woods when she was on TalkSport that, women can be astronauts, they can be surgeons, that women can do anything, but you can't play football, you can't throw a javelin. What do you think it is about sport that seems to create this almost tribalism?
I think
against
that's the word. If you look back to how we began, cavemen and women, you belonged to a tribe, and if you didn't belong, then the worst punishment they could give you was not to kill you, but was to tell you to go away. Because if you were isolated, you couldn't survive, you couldn't actually hunt for food, you couldn't protect yourself. And I think one of the reasons why sport particularly has that sense of tribalism, that there's usually a uniform. We're in here and you can see that there's a kit. There is a sense of belonging where you actually have a badge which says, I belong to this team and not that team.
Followers.
And so when it's done well, it's a really great thing. It can engender a sense of belonging. It can stop loneliness, all sorts of things. But when there is that sense of, if you're not part of my tribe, then you're my enemy, which goes back to being in the cave. If you saw somebody that was from a different tribe, they were a threat to your very survival. And so what happens is that tribalism can work to your favour, or it can really work against you. And you saw that particularly in the 80s.
In the 80s,
absolutely.
Like
and it comes back to perspective.
And it's all about generationally, as time goes by, you'll find, with history being like it is, I mean, we're not going to be alive to see it, but that completely will change,
well, if we're to survive as a human race, it's got to change.
It's got to improve. So I do think that you're doing. I mean, again, we see women in sport today. Certain sports, very glamorous women. Gymnasts, skaters, and that brings a sense of that's okay then.
There used to be this stigma that you can't be a girly girl and play sports.
Can't do both,
It's not
yeah.
about that anymore.
No.
There's girls that come to our sessions midweek and they've still got beautiful hair and they're still
With their
nails done, but they
So
can
why
still play
why
football.
can't I do both?
Yeah.
I don't have to be
You don't have to be a quote unquote tomboy to be able to play football.
Yeah. And but in my day, that was what it was.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's what
those
your
years
sister
are
went through as well. Like
Anna did, yeah.
she played in the boys' team. There was a lot of times that probably they just thought she was a boy with long hair, and situations
Yeah.
like that. It was almost, and then you almost get that patronising little like didn't she do? Well, she tried. Like,
She's the token girl.
but she
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
she
she
was
was
so
the mascot
so
as
often
such.
she was the
Yeah.
best player on the pitch,
Yeah.
and that's what starts to rub people the wrong way. That actually she's really good.
It's meant to be, it will happen, I mean, I will always be grateful for sport in my life. I never will be apologetic, and never did I back then feel apologetic for what I was doing, because I was fighting for my survival. For me, it was about, this was my only way out. How was I going to survive, and be able to look after myself? And what that taught me, apart from all those amazing experiences that I had and those tail-blazing moments, when I talk to young people and I say to them is not just the end destination of winning something, which was lovely because that's what proved to be in that very
It's the pinnacle of your career, isn't it?
Of course it is. But it was that middle bit, that
Journey.
growth.
The actual journey,
Yeah.
development.
And that growth that I learned.
Because that's the part that no one sees.
No.
Someone might see you standing there with an Olympic medal on the podium, but what they haven't seen is that
Self-growth.
graft.
And that self-growth is more important than anything else, because from a young kid, and I look in the mirror sometimes and see that young 3-year-old in the care system, and I think, actually, you didn't do too bad. If I'd have been put off because of some of the things that was told to me or written in the press, not only would I have been letting myself down, but thousands of young girls following in my footsteps. And I was never, never in that frame where I thought, I'm not going to do this. It's what I wanted. I was driven. I was passionate.
Did you find that the press sort of drove you even further? Not pushed you
The
away?
press have got a lot to answer for.
Yeah.
They can build you up or knock you down. They can make
They still do
real
it now.
success. And
I was just saying,
that's
still-
very, very
They're like an underdog, don't they? But as soon as you succeed,
Yeah, but until
then
you've got
you
to the
become
top,
like
they
too
say, "Oh, we
much."
want to knock you back down."
Yeah.
And it's almost like we've made you, and now we control it.
Yeah.
We can knock you back down a peg or two.
They do
and it's
control
still
so
very
much of the
powerful.
narrative.
And so is social media. And you think about the number of trolls that there are.
Mhm.
There's no consequences. People can say what they like. Be completely
Well, because you can hide
anonymous.
behind a
I'll give you
profile that you've not even got to put
It
your face
happens
on.
all the time. I'll give you an example. I'm somebody that loves to do challenges. I've just got back the last 2 weeks from crossing the Arctic. So if you go on my Instagram, you see all my feeds. I did it for Fatima's UK campaign to raise the awareness and also funds. I've done Everest, done Mont Blanc, I've done Grand Paradiso, I've done the Vienna to Istanbul, from the Bay of Biscay to San Sebastian, and back 3 peaks in 24 hours. There's no end to them.
Are you not knackered?
But those challenges, are key to my survival. And now I've been talking myself out. What was the point of what I was saying now? But no, obviously, with those challenges, obviously that's very much a part of who I am. I've lost the thread of what I was
Saying
talk about the
someone on
media at the
social
time.
media.
And social media
Trolls.
The trolls. Yeah, so
See, we are
no,
listening.
Just testing.
Testing it.
So even now, we talk about the media, and social media has a big role that it plays as well. That's probably the biggest medium now we've got.
Yeah, definitely.
With
It's free.
with the talkies and the writtens, it is. Everybody wants to be a star in their own show, as it were. It's a really strange era that we're living in that respect. But I remember putting a video out when I was at Everest Base Camp, and at the highest point at Everest of doing press-ups, And I put this little video out, which I did 100 press-ups, and it was a world record. And when I put it out, a lot of people liked it, but you got a lot of trolls that come on there.
Yeah.
Guys saying,
Not surprised at all.
That's not a press-up.
Yeah.
And,
It's just pure jealousy.
You know what I'm saying?
It is jealousy.
Pure jealousy.
When I think, well, there you go. You're trying to inspire.
There's still not enough for those people that are unhappy with
exactly.
So you
themselves.
just don't need to say it, or you don't need to type it. Like,
I mean, there's a saying, isn't there? If you've got nothing nice to
Yeah.
say, keep your
Don't-
mouth
don't
closed.
say it.
Yeah,
It's
my
so
grandma
true.
always said that.
So did
You've got
mine.
nothing
It's so
nice to
true
say,
though, isn't it?
don't do
Like-
them, if you can't do them a good thing, don't do them a
But
bad thing.
people's back to perceptions. You know, there's a famous golfer, I can't remember his name, and he got a ball in the bunker, and he got it out and did a hole-in-one, one shot.
Was it?
And
Bryson DeChambeau.
I can't remember, but terrible name.
don't get him started on
No,
golf.
don't.
I'm
But
going to go for a round after this.
but the reporter said, God, you're lucky. And he said, yeah, aren't I lucky with the hours and hours
Yeah,
and hours
of
and hours I've
practice,
spent in
yeah.
terms of...
Exactly,
It's surprising. The more I practice, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
And I think we tend to see somebody do well without understanding, you know, that's the top of the iceberg, but all of the rest that goes underneath. And
There's
we need
such
to
a
look at
thin
that.
ling between like being in the right place in the right time and,
Yeah,
and putting the
opportunity.
hours in,
Yeah.
having the opportunity. Some, like they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But sometimes it's not, and it is just hours and hours
Yeah.
of graft and
yeah, that's-
hard work.
That's what it's...
That's what.
Nothing
I
happens by
don't like
accident,
like
does it?
just
No.
talk about what I do for work, but it's that with what I do, and I work with athletes and work with them on their social media. It's like a lot of people will use social media, and there'll be people listening that they like sport, but their gateway into sport is social media. Like for a lot of people, and for a lot of athletes, it's done wrong. Where it's the wins. Here's my success. Here's everything I've achieved, and this can put people off of getting into a certain sport. It can put people down on their own aspirations, because it can be that someone's setting a PB at a race, but someone just wants to go for a run for their own. It can kind of
For their health and
it can put
well-being.
people off of things, and
I fall
I'd
into
work-
that trap though.
well, yeah, it's easy.
I do that with running.
It's really-
like,
it's-
you can set off for a run, and you're like, I'm just going for a 5k, just going for a 10k. Like, I'm not going to look at my watch. I don't care about the time. I know my loop. I'm just going to do it. But then you do have a little look at the watch, and that little voice in your head goes, You can go quicker than that. You can go quicker
If you
than
think
that.
of every
But I am
number-
only comparing myself with myself. That's my own brain doing that. I'm not competing with anyone else.
I'm afraid
But
to
it-
tell you.
yeah, but it will be. It will be.
When
It's
you
just
get to
there's
an old
always
man
that
lady.
that little voice just goes, "Go on, you've got a bit more there."
But there's the other way, and that's if I can't be perfect to start with, I'm not going to start.
Yeah.
And then many people get caught in that. They see
Yeah.
people doing well and think, well, I'm never going to
get
that.
there. Yeah.
When
That's why I
actually
encourage
sport
the
at
athletes I
lots
work
of
with
levels.
to actually post the journey.
Yeah.
And I talk about like the hero's journey a lot with
Yeah.
a lot of my clients, if you're familiar with it, which is you've got an athlete who, if their story is they got up one day and won gold, it's a boring film. You wouldn't watch that. If
No.
we were to make a film about Fatima, it wouldn't be she threw 75 metres for the first time at the end.
You tell the
You
life
show-
story.
Yeah.
Rocky is a Rocky Balboa story from where I started to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the really compelling
That's the
thing.
human interest. of
I
it.
try and tell every athlete I work with, regardless of whether they are a grassroots athlete or whether they're just personal goals, and they're building that following, it's showing what actually went into it. And I think I think if a lot of female athletes did that, it would also
Be more
help.
authentic, wouldn't
It
it?
would. It would
And
show
actually
the
helpful.
way in isn't
Yes.
just to compete, it's to get put on the running shoes, go for a run, go to your local athletics club, and just, this is your hobby. I think if more athletes showed that side of things, I
Yeah.
think that
That's
one
the
it.
inspiration and the inspiration
But it's the inspiration and the perspiration, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and when they win, you've all of a sudden you're like, yeah, they did it.
Yeah.
Right. You've almost got, you're creating these little mini fans almost, right?
of it's giving hope to people that they can achieve in their own way. If they have a dream, they don't have to go all the way to the top. As I said before, it's all about finding your own personal level.
Yeah.
So how do you define success for someone
Somebody
like
success
myself?
can be just
you know,
getting out of
I-
bed in the morning.
I will
Getting-
mention it. I ran the marathon
No,
last year.
don't even
Hold on. I ran London Marathon last year.
Well done.
I just wanted to finish
That's an
it.
achievement.
I just wanted to do my first one.
Did you?
I will do it
Did.
again. I finished it.
There you go then.
But that was all I wanted to achieve that day, was cross that finish line. I didn't
Yeah.
care about my time. But
Why
one
would
of
you? You
but one of my
set
but one of my
yourself to
friends
do
run it.
something.
One of my friends run it, and he was going for a time.
Right.
But
And then he's measuring up himself about.
yeah,
that's
he
the
was
time.
happy. He was happy. But we both. I said it to him. We both won our race that day. We both set out
Yeah, you're.
and achieved what we wanted to achieve. You were going for a time. You achieved it. I crossed that finish line.
Not only that, you raised an amazing amount of money.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the
he
other
was.
thing,
He was. He
usually
was
what-
running for
yeah,
sort of
those
more
things that
personal
you're
gain. I
doing
was running for a charity. But my point is,
run concurrently with what
that
you're
was
doing.
that was my success that day.
Yeah.
His was different. There's the thousands of other people that run that marathon that day. Everyone's version of success looks different. You've got people running it that have lost limbs, that are on prosthetic
Yeah,
legs and things
isn't
like
it
that.
amazing when you
Success
see
is
that?
different.
I went up there to
Inspiring.
watch and I was so emotional. But even before he ran past, I was so emotional. There's like,
It was very emotional. Even
Wheelchairs
running it, it was like an experience. It's the biggest adrenaline rush I've
Yeah.
ever had in my life.
People
And-
people would shit on that. If you had an online following and you posted, I did my marathon, people would always find on social media.
People,
But we
you know,
did
the
have people
first
say,
thing
you know
people
what,
say to
how
you,
did
when I
you
did
say
when I
it?
did mine, the
Because
first question
you're
was,
not
"What was
there
your
to-
time?"
"What was your time?"
Doesn't
That's what I
matter.
always
You're
say.
not there
That's people ask me that.
to ask for their approval,
No.
and that's the
I think
biggest
that's the danger
thing.
in social
Yeah.
media. So
And
I
that,
can't remember
again,
my
is
marathon
the
times,
strength
it's
of
not
sport
important.
is giving people the confidence to think, actually, what I want to achieve is mine.
yeah, it's your own achievement. It's
Other
your own
people's
goals.
opinions not my business.
This is one thing, in fact, I was going to ask you. Sorry to. Are you sort of pleased or not pleased that you didn't have social media in your time? Has it been a benefit, or obviously it could have gone in
I think
both
when
ways?
When you look at, I'm pleased I'm not a child growing up today. My son's 28, and I've always tried to give him the opportunity of skills in different sports, but not push him in one direction or the other. Give him meaningful choices. He can make the decision what he wants to do when he reaches that age, but he can do it at really quite a good level of success. But what you're building with young people today is pathways so that you give them those
The
choices.
opportunity is there.
Opportunities
whether
that they're there, yeah, and
want
then
to
they make
pursue it.
their own decisions. Now, with social media, you could say, I mean, the fact is, we each of us in our different eras are dealing with different problems and different things that come along. I had to deal with the Eastern Bloc, East versus West. I had to deal with the women don't have muscles. I had to fight for my rights as a woman, successful woman, as a world champion. Why wasn't I getting equal pay? And those things amount to, in its own way, setting history and changing that evolution for future generations. Now, you're being brought up with social media. It's something that young people do all the time. They may not feel that they're, have got a problem with it, but what we do see, society's putting extra stresses on them. They've got to dress a particular way, or that 1 second video they saw of somebody doing something, they must be living their life like that all the time. Those, I think, are real problems for our young people today.
Social media is just a tiny snapshot into someone's
It's a
life.
highlight reel.
Yeah.
It's a highlight reel.
You don't-
Like
But that's
anything,
where I
isn't
say it shouldn't be if it's done properly. It
And
shouldn't.
bullying,
It should be a
bullying is
journey.
It should be
easy
shown
now for young
everything,
people to get bullied. Anyone can hide behind
Screen.
Well, it's something
Yeah.
that
It's an
I touched on
online
earlier,
Trump,
the whole like the breaking the chains thing, because we still grew up a little bit in an era without social media. I can remember a childhood without social media,
Yeah.
which maybe to some people that actually listen to this makes me that makes me
We're innocent.
Yeah,
You're innocent living a
I can
normal
still
day-to-day
remember
life.
being completely offline, riding my bike to the park during the 6 weeks holiday and being out every daylight hour just playing football, and I was completely offline.
Nah.
No one knew where I was. Like.
See, I didn't. Mine was totally different.
But what
I
I'm
had
what I'm
fun,
getting at is
you know, I did that.
it's our children and the children of future generations to come, that they are going to grow up completely online. And I think it's our job as still that generation that still slightly knows a world without it, to educate our children and our grandchildren to come. Like, yes, it can do a lot of good, and you got to use it in the right way. But there's also you got to educate them on the dangers of it as well, on the trolls and the bullying and things like that.
There's another thing to that as well.
Yeah.
There's one more thing to that I would add with the tablet. I mean, back in the day, you couldn't be tracked where you were and what you were doing. You're not having to be accountable for every 5 seconds of the day. And nowadays, with that phone, it's always people going to ring you or send you a text, and you feel you have to respond straight away. And that's dumbed down.
I must admit, I'm a nightmare for that. If I don't reply straight away, it will take me a week to reply. So I reply straight away because I'm only because I will forget if I don't do this right now.
You'd be surprised what families are texting their own family in the next room. Well, get off your arse.
We do that. We'll be upstairs, downstairs.
One of the kids,
And she'll be like, text me, have you fallen asleep, one of the kids?
Right.
And I'm just like,
She's
no.
been personally attacked by that one.
So what I'm trying to say is it's done away with. It's broken down.
We're not
the
doing
fibre
ourselves
of what
any favour.
life's all about in communication and engaging. You know, how many times you sit in a restaurant, you see a whole family sitting there with their
They're not
phone.
even looking at each other.
They're not even communicating. How
Yeah.
sad's that?
I know.
You know, and a mum pushing a child down the road. I want to see these prams where the child's looking at you, not away.
Yeah.
So you can engage, they can pick you up. But the mums are going along
On their
and pushing
phones.
them on their
Yeah.
phone.
We're
I
all
always
guilty
find
of
it
it.
really
We're all
sad.
guilty.
We are, but that's the biggest problem that
You
we're
ever wonder how
fighting
much
at
more
the
you get
moment.
done in your day if you just put your phone down? For
That's-
24 hours, put your phone down.
And then look,
See how much
even
more you
in
get
the
done.
house
I
itself,
mean, you wouldn't get any work done.
When they-
But
When you
just
have a
saying, I'm
telephone-
monitoring the camera. I'm not actually. when I'm looking at my phone, I'm.
how many people have used their house phone? There was a time, and Gina will know this as well, when the phone rang, if mum and dad or the older person in the house was out the room, you'd have to pick the phone up and engage with another adult at the end of it. You've got to learn how to deal with yourself and talk to an adult.
Well,
Phone
now
calls in the winter were much shorter than those in the summer because the phone was in a hall with a whirly wire.
Yeah.
No heating in the hall. But, yeah.
Ours was just we always could use it after 6 p.m. because that's when it
It
was
was
free.
cheaper. Well,
Yeah.
now you get to a stage where we've not even got one.
When you
Yeah.
look
We
at
haven't even
social
got a
media
landline
with that now,
phone.
look, I'll take it even a step further. Nowadays, like reality TV has it, that young people can vote by their text.
Yeah.
Whereas the
It's
old
all
days
text.
used to be
It's
the
all
phone.
text.
The phone presses
You
Everything.
have to ask
You
mum,
even
can I
like-
use the phone, can I make a call?
It was like
And
tell
nowadays-
people
It's everything
Phone
now.
out, vote for you on the I'm a celebrity.
Even you go into a restaurant, you like scan the QR code. No, I want to talk to the waiter.
Yeah.
Like that
We
has
had it,
become
One-to-one
everything.
is missing. isn't it?
Everything's on your phone.
It's
They can't
horrible.
just talk to
Human
someone.
connection.
Terrible.
But the other thing is that it's 24 hours. So where children would come home from school and they'd do their homework and they'd go and play, now they'll go into their bedroom and people can get at them 24/7. And you have people pretending to be something that they're not. And
It's
those
terrifying.
young people have got no idea that we've got to take steps so that the tail is not wagging the dog, but the dog is actually taking charge because ultimately our kids are being harmed. And we all are at one.
Well, you've spoken before about it, specifically in football. Women's football got banned for 50 years. So,
You have to
of
ask yourself
course-
the question why, don't you?
well, yeah, because it was
But men with, I believe, felt very threatened
Yeah.
by it.
definitely because that wasn't even
When
a
you look
point.
at Lords, that's the same thing. I mean, women were never allowed in
Speaking,
Lords.
yeah.
I was one of the first women in sport to step on the Lords ground and play cricket with Colin Cowdrey, and Rachel Hayho Flynn.
What year was that?
That was in 87, 88, after I became world champion. Yeah,
That's
and
mad, isn't it?
that was quite groundbreaking.
What an achievement.
Yeah.
But you have to then consider how quick the evolution is happening. If that was 1987 and we're now in 2026, just how far it's moved
Yeah.
and how quickly.
How quickly.
There's an appetite for it.
There
which
is,
I think
and I
is
think-
really good.
I think you look at the football comparison. Yes, like it got banned ridiculously for 50 years. It won't take 50 years to catch up. It won't take anywhere near that
It's
to get to that
accelerating,
same
isn't it?
yeah,
Particularly because they've been so
tenfold.
successful.
Yeah. But you've mentioned it even just this week. Like there's this conversation because we're in a World Cup year now with the football. Like England men last won a World Cup in 1966.
It was something that Leah Williamson had
it was
touched on.
the major trophy conversation with England as a nation. Never mind male, never mind female. The England team. When have England last won a major tournament? you'll have lots of people say 1966. We won a trophy last year, but it was the women. But so many people, even still, they won't accept that in that conversation that England won a major trophy just last year.
So here's a question for you. Do we have to wait till all the people who were alive in 66, for whom it's part of their personal history, to die out before that will shift? Or is it going to shift enough before then?
I don't think.
I don't know. I think sadly it might have to completely die out, not to put it so bluntly.
It's standards as well. The raise of standards is very high. You know, in anything that's just beginning, and this is, I know this through my own beginning in sport. It takes time to climb that ladder, and anything new, the foundation of that, you're building on a sort of foundation where you have to make that solid. So any sport, like women's sport, is suddenly evolving. So you're going to get varying levels of women and what standards they're at, and how may they perfect that standard. Until when it's been out there long enough, and this is what we're seeing with men's football, it's been out there long enough, the standard's very high. It's much more difficult to succeed.
To the top, yeah.
Right? Whereas women's is still growing.
It's a lot more commercial, the men's sport, obviously, in terms of what money even goes into it, regardless of the standard and the ability. It's it's had years of investment. It's got eyes on the sport. It's got that. It's had a bit of a cultural impact. We take football just as a straight up example, where the women's game is sort of behind on that, regardless of the ability of the players sort of coming through. The actual commercial side of the way the media look at it and the way the companies look at it still has a long way to go. And it's almost seemed as like people that, even men that have an interest in women's football, it's seen as a niche sub-genre of the same sport. Same way of listening, it's almost seemed like the same way of listening to music and listening to all the pop songs, or you like the local band, you like the up and coming. It's almost seemed as something less like, going to watch the Hollywood movie versus going to a film festival. But it shouldn't be. It's the same sport that you.
It's the same genre.
Yeah. It's got a long way to go in that sense. That's when we start getting onto like equal pay and things, because then there's more money in the sport. But it's like anyone that's an advocate for that needs to get behind it and watch it, and the young people coming through should hopefully have that as it's not even a choice. It's just I like football, and use my sister for example. She's a horse rider, but golf, and it's like that's a sport that has a very good equal kind of viewing figures in terms of watching the women's
market force.
But football's
bums and seats. Or you couldn't fill a telephone box. I heard all those over the years, but I get and I hear what you're saying. I think, but it's like everything; it's evolving, and it will find its own level eventually. But it's important that it becomes the norm. People realise and accept that this is the norm. This is
just how it is now. And anyone that doesn't get on board with that is just going to get left behind.
Yeah, it's not going to stop just because you don't like it. So either ignore it, fine. If it's not for you, fine. You don't. This is what we're saying. If you don't like it, there's lots of things I don't like, but I don't actively go about my day trying to tear those people down. I just ignore it. It's not for me. So women in sport, women in football, that evolution, it's not going anywhere. It's only going to continue. So.
And it's accelerating.
It is. But
that brings us back really to draw her into the game. Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. Drawing people into the game. Women drawing her into the game. Women projecting themselves at the very highest level or on a very big platform where it can encourage others to participate. And I know more and more success will come from that.
And developing an awareness within the communities that actually this is a possibility and it's there for you. And I know it's your last day, isn't it, of a challenge for young people to get them to be engaged in women.
It's been such a big community thing, like in all the schools, and like we took down
you guys done it at the academy as well.
The academy. And we've got over 100 girls all sitting there drawing their mascot, and it is just that I'm quite an emotional person, and I do shed a tear every now and then, because I just look at all these, and it is like, it's close to home for me, like I said, with my sister, like, and you just see all these girls sitting there and they're so excited. We're taking them on a school trip as such to the game. It's the 15th of May, is that right? The women's 16th, 15th.
Day before
Whatever day.
our cup final.
It's the Saturday. Oh, that's ambitious.
It's a really important thing. It's celebrating women, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're taking them all with us. There's 80 girls and 80 parents coming, and we're going to end up filling out a stand, I think. But
Yeah, well, it should be a
But I think that's
Yeah.
all that needs. It's that one moment that can capture someone, that can light that fire.
community as well.
Not just girls, but any young child. And I know this is a very like sort of heavily female-driven campaign, and with the women's game here at the end of the season against Colchester, it's just you just never know. You only need one child to sort of see that, and it lights a fire. Laws of averages will tell you it's going to be more than one child that's going to be like, Mum, Dad, I love that. Like, when can we come back?
Yeah.
You talk about that word evolution. Like, this is the first time that the women's team have played here at Roots Hall. It's
a massive turning point.
there's a lot of building blocks all coming together on that day, and I'm sure it'll be a fantastic occasion. And
Well, I was saying the last women's team to play was the England women's team.
I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it was.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just
But
mental
when
thing.
you're opening this up to school children generally, there'll be lots of kids who would never have thought of this as an opportunity for them. That now, because of this scheme where you design a mascot, not only is it kids for sport, but actually you're giving kids who are good artists an opportunity to
It's different.
share their
It might not be
Yeah.
sport, but what they might realise there is, hold on,
That's really good. Yeah.
I've really enjoyed creating something there, and you think, oh, that child might go down a creative route.
There's
I think
something
outside-
That's
bigger
your
though,
biggest
isn't there?
learning in anything that young people do, girls or boys. That's the creativity is the part where they really learn from. Not about the scores and the results and the tests. It's just giving them.
Can I find something that I enjoy?
Creative,
Yeah.
But there's something bigger here than just a mascot and having
Absolutely.
a new character. And I've seen when he got announced, there's obviously social
lot-
media again.
a lot
There's
of
a lot
people
of
have missed the
very
point.
naive comments that completely missed the point. Where this isn't some woke initiative. This is something that has a larger meaning that doesn't just benefit women and young people in sport, but it also benefits obviously South United as a club.
Yeah.
I'll pass it on to you two to talk about that, so as in what actually that benefit is, the bigger picture of having this mascot.
A mascot is one of those things. It's almost a sign to belong. So whether you think about in the past, for example, if men went into battle, there was always a flag for their battalion, for their group of people. We belong, and I think
It's representation.
it's very
Visibility and
powerful.
Identity, yeah.
And we live in a society where many people are incredibly lonely, who their families who used to live very close, people were involved in the church or the temple or whatever, that we live in a very disconnected society. And I think having a mascot where people think, yeah, that's something that's meaningful to me. Because it's being created by young people within the community, it has an even greater importance, because it's not something that somebody's just said, well, this is our mascot because the chairman thought it was a nice thing to do. That this
It's
actually
community
has
goals.
a
Yeah.
momentum.
Yeah.
Created it.
And those kids who are involved in creating that mascot, even if they don't necessarily go to play football, they might want to come and watch it. And it gives them a sense of, this is something that's
Belonging.
important to me.
It's
And
an
I think,
identity.
it's so important.
Identity is really important. Mascot's brilliant, but it's what that young girl sees through those eyes, and what their potential is.
It's what that mascot actually
become.
symbolises.
Yeah.
It's not just someone that's wearing a costume.
No.
It's so much deeper than that. It's what does this actually
Yeah.
symbolise? And it's community.
And it's who they can become. You know, at the end of the day, that goes way beyond that mascot. It's just a visibility to draw that young person in, to create what they're capable of, their true, authentic self, and being successful in their own way. And your sister, she's a mascot.
If you think of
It's a better
any,
way
She's
of
not in a
putting it.
costume, but
No.
she's been a
No, but she's
representative
been a
for
role
so
model,
many
and
girls.
That's exactly
Yeah,
it. And that's
exactly.
where I talk about what the mascot represents.
think
That
of,
is that person when they look through those eyes, who they can be.
think of any
Definitely.
company and they will brand themselves, and you look at logos, which in a sense are a company's version of a mascot. It's instantly recognisable, and whatever it may be that you have a loyalty to in terms
Oh,
of
it
a
conjures
brand.
up in your mind as to what is.
What does it mean to you?
That
Yeah,
sense
yeah.
of, you know, I want a bit of this, and by engaging with the mascot, well, it's actually its ownership, it's mine. It might belong to thousands of other people, but it's mine too.
Little piece of that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part ownership.
Feels like the right time to
Love
wrap things up.
Yeah, I think we're about there. Yeah, thank you both very much. I'm sure we could have sat there for hours.
Probably would. I've got to remember it's my birthday today.
Yeah,
so
you need to go
and enjoy
I need to go
yourself.
and enjoy myself. Although I'm not saying I haven't enjoyed it today. I have. It's been a real
It's
pleasure.
been lovely.
Yeah,
I wish you
and
well with
I hope
everything as
I hope some people that are maybe still a little bit on the fence for certain things will at least give this the time of day and listen to it, and they might educate themselves a little bit.
It's drip, isn't it?
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
And if it's not by the fact that you want to take part yourself or be involved yourself, at least encourage others to do so.
Mhm.
And be the best version of who they can become.
It's definitely lovely. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Cool.
Thank you both very
you.
much.
Thank you.